So I want to use this video to wrap up our discussion from class today, where we talked about being provided an ordered pair and the slope of a line. Remember, this ordered pair represents one of the infinitely many points on the line, and this is the slope of the line. So we could graph this line if we wanted. Likewise, we could graph this line if we wanted. But what we want to be able to do is to get the equation that represents the line. And the default form is typically slope-intercept form. So we talked about the two different ways we could go about writing an equation in slope-intercept form from this given information. One of those methods was by way of using the actual formula for slope-intercept form, so y equals mx plus b. And the other method was by way of entering through point slope form, so y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. What I'm going to do is to use each of these examples as a way of demonstrating how to write the equation that's been asked for using each of these methods. So the first method we're going to use is slope-intercept form. So I'm going to start out with y equals mx plus b. That's my formula. And I already know that I have my m, so that's going to be real easy to substitute in. But what I also know is my value for an ordered pair. Now this is what gets a little bit confusing. Whereas in point slope form, I would be substituting these values in for x1, y1. In slope-intercept form, the only place I have in which to substitute those values is in for x and y. So I'm going to be able to substitute for x and for y. Likewise, I'm going to be able to substitute in for m. And that means the only thing I'll be left to solve for is b. So let's go ahead and do that. So I can start out by substituting my y coordinate 1 is equal to my slope, negative 2/3, times my x coordinate, which I know is negative 6 in this case. And what we're going to be left doing is solving, whoops, I want to change that. Negative 6 is my x value. And what we're going to be left solving for is b. So it's going to say plus b. So now we can go ahead and do our math. We know negative 2/3 times negative 6 is going to give us 4 plus b, and that's equal to 1. We're simply going to subtract 4 on both sides. That's going to give us that b equals negative 3. And now I'm going to take that value and roll it back into b along with my given slope. So by the time I'm done, my equation is going to say y is equal to my given slope, negative 2/3. I'm going to say x. And now we're going to say minus 3. And we're done. So again, this is just a simple matter of taking what we know. In this case, we know our m value. We know our m value. We know an x and y value. That gives us 3 of the 4 variables in our formula for slope-intercept form. And we simply solve for b so that we can finish out writing our equation. So there is our final outcome. So in the second example, I'm going to enter by way of point slope form. So I'm going to write that formula out. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And I'm going to this time recognize that my ordered pair is my x1, y1 value. So it's my x1, y1 value that I'm going to substitute. And my slope right here is going to get substituted in for m. Once we get that equation written in point slope form, we'll be able to simplify it into slope-intercept form. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Let's see. So I'm going to say y. We know minus negative 2 is going to turn into plus 2 is equal to, let's see, our slope is 7/4, and then parentheses x minus, and our x1 value is going to be 8. Okay, now we can begin to use this equation and simplify. So let's begin to simplify here. So we can say 7/4 times x is 7/4 x minus 7/4 times 8, if I get some cross canceling, that should give me a 1 and a 2, which means it's going to be minus 14. And we're going to drop everything else on the left-hand side down. So y plus 2 equals 7/4 x minus 14. At this point, to get to slope-intercept form, all I need to do is to finish isolating for the y. So as you'll see, I'll just subtract 2 on both sides, and I'll get y equals 7/4 x minus 16. And once again, we have an equation in the requested form, in slope-intercept form. So what this video is intended to demonstrate for you is when we're given a point and the slope, we have two ways in which to write an equation in slope-intercept form. We can use the slope-intercept formula, substitute in for x and y and m, solve for b, and then go back and finish writing out the equation from the original given value of m and our new solved value of b. Or actually, my preference is to use point slope form because that's kind of a gateway for writing an equation in any form. Start by writing the equation in point slope form and then simplify it into slope-intercept form. So now you have two different approaches in which to write an equation in slope-intercept form when you're provided a point on the line by way of an ordered pair and the slope of the line.